Hi everyone, welcome to Cloud Bootcamp, and this is the lecture number 3 in Google Cloud Platform series. And the agenda for today is we're going to talk about a service in GCP which is called as Cloud IAM, and the acronym of IAM is Identity and Access Management. So this is a very important topic because whatever certification you choose in GCP, right, IAM will be there. This is a common topic, whether you opt for GCP data engineer certification, professional cloud architect certification, network or security engineering certification, IAM is a common topic for all. So this is quite an important topic to understand how things work in cloud, how we can make use of identity and access management, and also secure the things using a cloud IAM service. So let's get started. So on a high level, in a layman term, what is IAM or identity and access management is it basically defines like who can do what on which resource, wherein these three W's are quite important to understand, which is first one is who, and the second one is what, and the third one is which. And also I have written down a explanation of those in a single word. So the first one is who, wherein we can refer it as a kind of user and maybe an identity, and in terms of GCP terminology it can be a principal. And the second one is what, who can do what. So what are nothing but the roles. So on a high level you might know that roles are nothing but collection of permissions which you assign, right? And the last one is who can do what on which resource. So which resource means like we have multiple resources in Google Cloud, like virtual machine, which is called as Compute Engine, Google Compute Engine, GCE, Google Cloud Storage, Cloud Functions, and so on. So we're gonna also see a demonstration for this exercise, but my plan is to first to make you aware of these terminologies because this is a very important topic, and I will be giving few theory things first so that things are quite clearer when we do the demo as such. So let me open a notepad as such, or maybe paint window, so that we understand this in a better way. Let me open a paint window real quick. I'll just say IAM just to see if this font is okay. Let me keep it as 18. Okay, so as we mentioned, IAM is nothing but who can do what on which resource, wherein who is the user or identity or principal, what are nothing but the roles or permissions, and which is defined as a resource, like what a user can do with what roles on a resource or permission. So first we're going to discuss about the types of users in GCP. So if I just say types of users in GCP, so we have three types of users in GCP. So the first one is a Google account. Second one is Google Groups. And the third one is service account. So out of these three, service account is the most important one, and we're gonna also see a demonstration on top of it. These two are just for the information purpose. I don't see a usage of much in terms of Google account and Google group, and the service account is the most important. But just to cover what a Google account is, Google account is nothing like you have your Gmail account, right? That's an individual user account. So if I just try to cover what a Google account is, so let's Google account. As I mentioned, it is nothing but a Google account as such on a high level. But there are two types of Google account. Two types of Google account. One is the individual user account, and the second one is organization account. As the name suggests, individual user account, right? This means your Gmail ID. You might be having your own personal Gmail ID. For example, I have one Gmail ID for my GCP account, which is like this. So this can be an example of individual user account, wherein at the end it's gmail.com. Maybe another like rohit@gmail.com. So this is not an organization as such, right? It's an individual account or a personal account. So those are like individual account. And if I talk about organization account are the one which is like ending with hcl.com, or maybe a organization name as such. So an example of organization account is, for example, ravi@amazon.com. It has an organization identity. If you see amazon.com, maybe kishan@hcl.com, again you see an organization identity. So that's just a kind of small summary for you guys. Three types of users in GCP. First one is Google account, which we have seen. Google account, it's nothing but a kind of Google identity or Google account as such, wherein two types of Google account: individual user account like your Gmail ID, and organization account usually have kind of organization identity like amazon.com, hcl.com, etc. Google groups, if I want to show you, it's nothing but like how you create groups in WhatsApp maybe, but let's take a look. Google groups. If I just go over here, I do have a Google group already in place, as you could see, but if I just try to create a group, I just need to give a name like demo group, and then if you see, it takes an email address like demogroup@googlegroups.com, and you can have a description of it. This name is already taken. Let's try this. @WE. Okay. You can keep settings like invited users only and keep it default, but the important part in this is you can add members in that group. For example, this can be one of the member, like @gmail.com. This can be one of the one. This can be the another one, or maybe ankush@gmail.com. So you can have multiple users inside a group. And what is the benefit of creating a group is like you can even have a kind of, for example, a Google group. You can even have a Google group for your developer team for your network admins and maybe administrators as such, and you can have members inside this, as I mentioned, like Ravi, Sean, Reem, etc. And here also you can have few members like Kavi, Rohit, Mole, and so on. And for administrator you can have different users. So the benefit of using Google Groups is you can assign roles to multiple users as such, and whenever a user has left the company, for example, Amol has left the company, we can just remove the user from the group, and yeah, it is kind of offboarding a user. But let's say suppose someone else is joining the administrator team, for example Michael, then we can just add Michael to the administrator because he's an administrator, and he will have privileges related to administrator. So we are just segregating the roles and duties as such. Let's say suppose Kavi is a network admin, will have access related to network admin stuff. So just one of the things which can be used in GCP like a Google group. Now as we discussed, like the second, let me just write it down, who can do what on which resource. So this is the definition of IAM, wherein we have just covered the who is nothing but a kind of users in GCP or identity in GCP as such. An identity can be of three types, which Google account, group, and service account. We have covered Google account, Google groups, and we'll see service account at a later duration because this is quite important. And now we want to discuss the second W, which is what. And as I mentioned, what is nothing but, I just use this, what is defined by roles and permissions. So this is the definition for what, which is defined by roles and permissions as such. And what are roles? Now roles is nothing but collection of permissions. Yeah, and permission is nothing but you can have a permission for creating a storage bucket, or maybe deleting a storage bucket, or listing a storage buckets as such. Those are the permissions which you'll be assigning to a role, right? And role can be anything. Like for example, let me take an example. A role can be, as we discussed previously, right? Role can be a developer, network admin, administrator. So let's take an example, a role as admin, and let's take a second role as a developer. So it may happen admin will have different permissions and developer will have different permissions as per their day-to-day work. And let's talk about what are permissions as such. Let me see if I can just zoom in a bit. Okay, so let's talk about permissions now. So as I mentioned, like permissions can be of creating a bucket. So what is a permission for creating a bucket? It is storage dot bucket dot create. Bucket is nothing but a Google Cloud Storage. Don't worry, we'll be discussing more on Google Cloud Storage lecture as such. So this is the permission to create a bucket. Now there will be a permission like storage dot bucket dot list. This is to list the buckets. There can be another permission to create some data inside a bucket, which is nothing but objects in GCP. Storage dot object dot create. This is to add some data inside the bucket. Now these are the permissions, and now let's say suppose you want only create and list permission to be granted to the admin. So what we'll be doing, let me just take, so what we'll be doing is we can just add create plus list, which is storage dot bucket dot list. And let's say suppose developer will be having some extra privileges, right? For example, these two are there, plus developer can even delete a bucket, which can be storage dot bucket dot delete. So in this way, if anyone joins the company, you can, if he's administrator, you can assign this admin role and he can start working, or he can just do these tasks like creating a bucket and listing the bucket. If someone is a developer, then you can assign this developer role, and these are the necessary roles which is required for your developer in the company, for example, just an example. So what we have seen is like who is nothing but a user or identity or a principal, and who can do what is defined by the roles and permission. And we have seen roles is nothing but collection of permission, and permissions are nothing but, like, for example, creating a virtual machine, creating bucket, deleting virtual machines. And collection of those permissions are nothing but the roles, and we have defined the roles like admin, and we have assigned few permissions to admin, and a developer few permissions to developer, and you can even have furthermore as per your need as such. And now too much of theory, I would say. Let me show you the tool as such in the GCP. If we go to the GCP console for a moment, and if I just go to the hamburger menu, and here you see IAM and admin, if I just click on it, first let me show you how we can create a project, because I have deleted all my projects so that I can show you how you can create a project in GCP. If I just click on new project, you can just give a name to a project. For example, I'm giving a cloud bootcamp, and I'll just click on create, and you see that it is creating a project. And the project is created. Let me just refresh this dashboard or console. Now if you see, my project is listed down over here, which is a cloud bootcamp. It should show over here. Let me just refresh it. Yeah, we do see over here, and yeah, it has just come up. So this is how you can create a project in GCP. And now let's discuss the topic which we were trying to, which is identity and access management. If I just click on IAM, this is how the IAM window looks like. It is still loading. Just take a moment. So these are the kind of identities. So this is my user. So if you see this user, a Cloud Bootcamp has a owner role as such. And if I need to grant or change the access, I can just click over here and click on this edit principal. If you see, that's why I was calling principal. Users are nothing but principals in GCP. And now also there are 3 types of roles in GCP. Let's talk about those because those are also quite important. Types of roles in GCP. So if I just go to my Google Cloud Console, if you see view by roles, this is view by principal, which means a user or identity. View by roles. So you see one role is listed over here as owner, but we'll talk about all the roles, but because we haven't granted any other roles, that's why it is not showing. But let me just show you the types of roles in GCP. So the first one is primitive roles. Sorry for the typos. Primitive roles. These are also called as basic role. And the second one is predefined roles. And the third one is a custom role. Let's talk about these 3 for a moment because these 3 are quite important. Because if I just go to the console and show you the importance of it, if you just go to the service account for a moment and just hit on create service account. So maybe give a name, SA service account demo. If I just click on create and continue. So if you see, we can select a role. So if you see basic like editor, owner, viewer, and few other roles. So these basic roles like editor, owner, viewer are nothing but basic role, as you could see, are primitive roles in GCP. These are the roles created by Google itself, and these are very broad in scope. Broad means like giving an editor access or giving an owner access to someone in the organization is not a best practice, right? Because he'll be having access to everything in a project as such. And the second type is predefined roles, as we discussed. So if you go down like BigQuery, billing, these are all predefined roles. And the third one is custom. So let me just give you a background or theory for this, then the things will be quite clearer to you guys. So first one is primitive roles, as I mentioned, created by Google. These are broad in scope. So basically it includes roles like owner, editor, and viewer. And also we have browser. Predefined role. Again, predefined roles are created by Google. So primitive and predefined roles, these are created by Google. But what is the difference between these two? As I mentioned, the primitive roles or the basic roles are broader in scope. Editor, owner, viewer. I mean, it contains everything. And predefined roles are specific Google Cloud services roles. Like, let's say, suppose you have a role for Google Cloud Storage. So that is quite a specific role, right? You have a role for virtual machine. So nothing but specific Google Cloud services offer set of predefined roles. So it can be like set of predefined roles for specific Google Cloud services. For example, you may have a role for Google Compute Engine, which is compute admin. Then the compute admin cannot access Google Cloud Storage or any other services in GCP. You may have a role for Google Cloud Storage, which is like cloud storage. If someone is having Google Cloud Storage role only, then he cannot access compute admin stuff. That's how you can delegate or separate. Delegate is not the right word. Separate the duties as such. And let's say suppose some organization wherein compute and cloud storage is a common team, so you can assign these two roles to those users so that they can do their own work. Now coming back to the last one, which is a custom role. Custom roles are not created by Google, but these roles are created by the users. So GCP users can create the custom role with minimal permission. So let's say suppose as I mentioned, right, in compute admin, it has a predefined role, and you don't want someone to delete the virtual machine. But if you assign this predefined role, it contains everything: create, delete, list, and you want only to give create and list, but not delete. Then you can use the custom role as such, and you can remove delete from that predefined role and have a custom role. So let me show you what I mean in the portal. Let me cancel this for a moment. There is something called as role over here. So you see, this is like Google managed role. For example, you see this symbol, right? And this is for Artifactory. And if you go down further, how many roles we have, predefined roles, it is 1459 as of today. That's this many predefined role. But let's say suppose we'll just go to a role like compute maybe let's type compute admin. Let's open this role. This is a predefined role. You could see this symbol, right? And once you create a custom role, you'll get a different symbol. I'll show you that. If I just click on this compute admin, it will show it has 821 permissions assigned. And let's say suppose compute delete, let's say suppose you don't want these instance group delete role, right? So what you can do, you can create a custom role. And how you can create it, you just need to click on this create from role. So we are creating a custom role now, and we will be deleting some of the permissions which we don't need in this custom role. So you can give, once you create a custom role, right, Google automatically adds custom compute admin. I think it's quite good. Description, it says created on, it gives a ID as such, and role launch stage. So these are nothing but the best practice. If it's an alpha, means it's in development phase. If it's in beta, it means in testing phase. Generally available means everyone can use it. Disable means it's disabled, no one should use it. So let's take an example which generally available, we have tested and everything is fine, and we mentioned that we don't want this permission, so we'll just uncheck this. Yeah, and now you see we just have 802, or maybe we have just unchecked many more. Now we just want this get and list, only these roles we just wanted, and the other ones which are selected. So you see 795, we don't want this. We can even customize as per our need. And once we hit on save, and you see for custom roles you'll get a different icon as such, and our custom role was custom compute admin, if I still remember. So you see this is custom compute admin role, and this is the symbol. So if I just scroll it for you, this is the custom role, and these are the predefined roles created by GCP, which is like in this symbol. So that's how you can create the custom roles in GCP. And now let's come back to our discussion topic. So these are the types of roles in GCP, and we haven't discussed the types of users, which is like service account. We did talked about Google account, Google group, and the service account is pending, which is the most important one, as I mentioned initially. So I think for this video it's becoming too long, half an hour, and I'll just create a new video for a service account demo, because that's quite important, and let's have another video for this. So as usual, if you have any other queries, and if you think you have learned something new with this, so just mention it in the comment section, and let me know in case of any questions and comments. Thank you, and see you in the next.